You're listening to episode 118, 5 Common Leadership Mistakes and How You Can Avoid Them. Welcome to the Boss Bitch Rising podcast. My name is Coach Kale Roberts and I am your host. I am a mindset and transformational coach with over 10 years of experience as an entrepreneur. I went from being homeless in 2016 to building a multiple six-figure online coaching business. I am passionate about those that I have the opportunity to serve, and so I'm grateful you're here. My coaching method combines science, spirituality, and strategy, which elicits powerful transformations, leading you to massive elevation in your success. I am the founder of the Collective Conscious Coaching Academy, Institute for coaches, mentors, leaders, guides, and healers. This is where I develop influential, heart-centered people. I share weekly episodes inside the Boss Bitch Rising podcast where I discuss subjects like psychology, the subconscious mind, human energetics, manifestation, business strategy, and more. I'm excited to hop into our next episode and I'm so grateful you're here. Now let's rise up. Welcome back, my love, to the Boss Bitch Rising podcast. As always, I am so grateful you're here with me in today's episode. We're going to dive into some juicy content today, talking about the 5 most common leadership mistakes and how you can avoid them. Now, it's likely that if you're with me here in today's episode, that you're already a leader in some way, or you're looking to develop your leadership skills even more to make a greater impact and influence in the lives of those that you serve. Now, I am hosting a free workshop on just that, impact and influence, how you can create bigger impacts, greater influence in the online space as the leader that you already are. That free workshop, you can sign up for it at kaleroberts.com/links. And inside this workshop, I'm going to talk about how to develop an impactful influence as a niche leader in the online space, how to get more people engaged with your content, how to develop charisma, how to build trust, and how to make just a greater impact in the lives that those you get to serve every single day. I'm super excited about this workshop. It's completely free and it's going to change the way that you're showing up as a leader in the online space. All you have to do to be there is sign up on my website, kaleroberts.com/links, and I can't wait to see you there. All right, so let's just dive right into the topic today. The 5 common mistakes that leaders make and how you can avoid them. Now, since you're here listening, it's likely that you are looking to develop your leadership skills even more. And we all want to be strong leaders, and of course we want to be strong leaders that are also mistake-free or error-free. But the inevitable is we're going to make mistakes. We're human beings, we mess up, and the best thing to keep in mind as we're going through this topic today is to just stay open, stay self-aware, and stay honest with yourself. The more open, self-aware, and honest you are, especially as a leader, you can actually create more influence and impact in your life, therefore creating that massive ripple effect out into the lives of those that you serve. Why? Because you're leading by example. You're a humble leader with integrity, and you're able to pivot and learn from your mistakes. You're able to think bigger picture. You're able to think of solutions more rapidly, and you're able to be self-aware so you understand when it's time to pivot, when it's time to maybe switch thought processes, when it's time to ask for help, when it's time to delegate out. And we're going to get into all of that a little bit more in today's episode. So let's start with mistake number 1, common mistake number 1, which is the absence of a clear, defined vision. This is really truly understanding the outcome that you desire in whatever it is that you're pursuing, whether it's as an individual or organizing a team together to reach this desired outcome. You have to have a clearly defined vision. And within that vision, also understanding what's important to you and why. Understanding your core values is a key component to having this clearly defined vision. Why is understanding your core values kind of going hand in hand with having the clearly defined vision? Well, when we understand what's important to us, we can understand what our non-negotiables are. When we understand what our non-negotiables are, we can understand what to say yes more quickly to and what to say no more quickly to. We can also understand where our strengths and weaknesses are and how we can best delegate out or ask for help when need be. So, as a leader, before organizing your team to start making progress or taking action towards achieving this desired outcome, it's really important to get that clearly defined vision in order first. I call this like your blueprint or your mapping strategy. Success mapping essentially is what this is. You're understanding exactly what that end goal is, what the desired outcome is. You also understand who is on your team, who is helping you pursue and achieve this desired outcome. Then you're chunking down this bigger vision, you're chunking it down into smaller, actionable steps. This is how you create that action plan. Then, in those smaller, actionable steps, what tasks are you going to be taking responsibility over, and what tasks can you delegate out to your team? And then how are you going to be communicating with them, following up with them, and making sure that this essentially is running like a well-oiled machine so that everyone's job is working cohesively together to achieve this desired outcome in a timely and efficient manner. So step number 1 is understanding what your desired outcome is, then chunking down through success mapping, understanding the time limit or the time frame it's going to take to achieve your desired outcome, who is on your team or how many people you need to recruit onto your team in order to achieve that desired outcome, what the strengths, weaknesses, and job duties are of each of your team members, how you can best lead them in each space that they're in charge of, managing, overseeing, what have you. And working together cohesively as, again, like the analogy of a well-oiled machine, working cohesively together to achieve that desired outcome. So this kind of takes us into mistake number 2, which is communication. Strong leaders have strong communication. Weak leaders have weak communication. When you are leading a team of people, especially to a very clearly defined vision, it's so important to understand how to communicate effectively with your team. And this is just an essential life skill, if you do ask me. It's so essential to know how to communicate with people. Now, I am a wholehearted believer that communication is not one size fits all. Communication entails so many different things. One of the major components of communication is understanding the individual or the group of people that you're communicating with. Individuals have different learning styles, therefore they're going to absorb information differently. If you think of the learning styles in, the 5 senses, we have kinesthetic, which is more hands-on learning, people who need to touch, feel, and do things in order to absorb the learnings more effectively. People that are visual learners, maybe they need to see a map or an image or a step-by-step process of how you're going to achieve the goal. There's auditory learners, people that need to hear it. Maybe they need to hear it several times. Maybe they need to hear it in several different tones of voice or speech patterns for them to just really understand what is being told to them. Really understanding how to communicate effectively with individuals is so important. And this is where getting to know your team comes into play. When you're a leader, you need to know who you're leading in order to effectively lead them. Many leaders only hold meetings and share information on an as-needed basis, and this is one of the biggest mistakes. You're not really connecting with your team, therefore you're not actually getting to know them, and you're not actually going to know how to lead them effectively because you don't know your team. The lack of interaction and regularly conducted meetings or regularly touched, like meeting points, if you will, this actually can cause a team to lose focus. It prevents the opportunity for team members to build synergy, which is so important to achieving effective outcomes. And not having a high interaction level with your team also lacks trust building. I will say that I made this mistake very early on. I felt like I was always so hands on with my clients, but I was not very hands on with the people that I was hiring to work on the back end of my business. In a year and a half, I went through 3 different assistants, and I was so tired of having to find another one, onboarding them, which takes forever. And then finally, once I got them up to speed, they'd only last 3 to 6 months, and then I was doing this whole process all over again. And finally, a couple months ago, I was just like, what am I doing wrong? How am I not effectively leading these people to stay on my team long term? And the biggest thing for me is my communication with those team members honestly sucked. I was not communicating with them regularly. I was only communicating with them on an as needed basis. I was not holding regular touch meetings, just like checking in and making sure we're on track with the projects that we're working on. And this was part of the reason why I wasn't retaining employees very long. And I wanted to change that. As I came into the new year, I was hiring a new employee, and I totally revamped the way that I'm not only hiring these individuals, but how frequently I'm communicating with them, how frequently I'm checking in with them, and what our communication looks like. Part of my onboarding process, I asked them, do you know your learning style? Would you feel best learning in a kinesthetic manner, an auditory manner, a visual manner? How are you absorbing information? How can I communicate best with you most effectively? And also in that, how can I encourage you? And one of the ways that I like to encourage people is through the 5 love languages. People think the 5 love languages are designated for romantic love, and that's not true. The 5 love languages essentially is how we feel most validated. If your words of affirmation, then hearing words of encouragement from me is going to feel very important for individuals, whether you're my friend, a family member, a romantic partner, or someone who works for me. If gift giving is one of those love languages, sending little small yes, you did such a great job. Thank you. I appreciate you and I value you being on my team. Little things like that go a long way. And I'm learning, as I go through all of this, I'm learning how to be a more effective leader. But going back to what we talked about at the beginning of this episode, being open, being honest, being self-aware, and always be willing to improve. In the world of NLP, there's this saying called at cause or in effect. We want to be at cause, meaning we're taking full responsibility for the outcomes of our life. So if there's things that are going on in your life that you're not quite happy with, how can you choose to be responsible for them? Therefore, how can you take the responsibility to create and facilitate different outcomes? And so that's one of the things that I had to learn how to do with managing my employees and the team that I've hired to work for me. I want them to grow with my company. Therefore, I have to be a better leader in order to not only keep them on my team, but to create a positive working environment and to develop them as the best version of themselves that they possibly want to be too, right? So some suggestions for you in developing better communication is to stay in touch with your team. Make yourself available and schedule both team and individual meetings on a regular basis. Making sure that you're available and you're checking in regularly just opens up the lines of communication. And then in there, understanding, your individuals or your team a little bit better, getting to know them a little bit more deeply with each time you meet is going to be powerful in developing trust, making a greater impact in their life, building rapport, and creating synergy. Make sure that you are taking the time to engage with your team. Understanding that their needs and desires are also just as important as the desired outcome that you're all working together to achieve. So understanding how you can better support them or better lead them by honestly directly asking that. How can I better support you? How can I better lead you? Are there things that you need from me that would make this flow smoothly? When you hold yourself accountable as the leader and you don't act above reproach, meaning you're not better than the people that you're leading, you're all working together to achieve that desired outcome. You just might have more experience or a bigger vision and know how to organize people more effectively. When you make yourself accountable, this actually holds the space for others to be more accountable as well, which is actually mistake number 3, failing to hold other people accountable. And I would say that that first starts with yourself. You have to know how to, again, going back to what we talked about at the beginning of this episode, staying open, honest, self-aware, and always be willing to improve. All of those points help to hold you accountable. And if you're leading from that space of being open, honest, self-aware, and always willing to improve, you also expect the same of your team. It's not uncommon for leaders not to reach out and provide meaningful feedback about what went well and what did not. This actually inhibits growth, suppresses results, and can cause frustration and confusion amongst the team. So my suggestion here would be, once you know your team, because you've taken the time to sit down and honestly get to know them, you understand their strengths and weaknesses. You can organize them effectively. So you're not just putting people only where their, strengths are, but you're delegating work that's going to help develop other skills. Really understanding how you can best support your team is going to keep them accountable. Hold everyone accountable for supporting the vision. Provide that support in developing the other skills. Provide timely, specific, and meaningful feedback. I always say communication that's constructive instead of destructive, right? We want to build the team by developing their weaknesses, but also allowing them to flourish in their strengths. And don't wait until these scheduled meetings to provide feedback. If there's feedback that you feel called to share, maybe plan or schedule that breakaway meeting, or do what feels best so that you can provide that safe space to hold people accountable and to facilitate the most growth possible. And this actually leads us right into mistake number 4, which is failing to recognize good performance. Many leaders feel everything is a part of their staff's job, instead of recognizing strengths and weaknesses amongst your team and delegating appropriately, but also giving challenges to people to help develop their weaknesses, maybe pairing people together so that they can work cohesively together in developing certain weaknesses, learning new skills, etc. This can leave team members questioning when you don't actually hold the space to not only recognize good performance, but also develop those weaknesses. This can leave team members questioning what it takes to really go above and beyond and what they have to do to even excel in their position. They may want to leave the company. Maybe that's the reason why I had 3 different assistants in 1 year, because I wasn't recognizing good performance. I wasn't creating a space that was helping them develop their weaknesses. And honestly, it was just a shit show because I didn't really know what I was doing as a leader in that particular space. Again, I was a phenomenal coach to my clients, but I had never really managed employees before. So I was just kind of like, bobbing for apples there, figuring it out as I went along. So many people actually want to be recognized for their efforts. Think about it. You do, right? I know I do. We all want to be recognized in some way, especially if you know you're doing a damn good job, or because you've learned skills, or because maybe things are challenging. No matter the reason, we all want to be recognized for our efforts and our accomplishments. So understanding as a leader, being able to do that for your team, recognizing their good performance, recognizing their accomplishments, celebrating wins. And again, that's what brings us back into understanding the individuals on your team, what their learning styles are, and what their love language is. When you know the love language of your team and the individuals on it, you can actually really speak into how they best receive not only feedback, but also appreciation and accolades. If you want to show somebody and validate somebody that you appreciate them, showing them specifically through their love language can be amazing. Now, a lot of people ask when I bring up the love language thing, I do coach and teach on this in a lot of my leadership seminars and workshops. And people are like, I still don't get it. How can you do physical touch, right? Isn't that inappropriate for the workplace? But I'm like, not necessarily. A fist bump, a high five, those are 2 great ways to give physical validation to somebody for doing a great job. Now, what if you're not doing in-person meetings? What if everything you do is virtually? Well, of course, physical touch is going to be a little bit harder, but we all have multiple love languages. So if your team doesn't know what their love language is, there's quizzes out there that you can have them take. They can better understand themselves and how they like to be validated, and in turn, you can better understand them as well. So I would actually consider this more of validation points. How do people like to feel rewarded and validated within relationships? And understanding this about your team and about yourself can actually more effectively guide you through creating valuable relationships, meaningful relationships, and long-lasting relationships, because you're actually feeding in to people's specific communication styles. So suggestion here is take the time to look for things that are specific to your individuals on the team, point them out, give them praise, give them validation. During your team meetings, giving praise to individuals, yes, of course, can make people feel uncomfortable, but creating an environment where everyone is celebrating wins, recognizing good performance, and giving valuable feedback is going to build morale. It's going to create a more enthusiastic working environment. And when we create good feelings and enthusiastic people, we're probably going to get to that desired outcome a lot more effectively, efficiently, and have a lot more fun in the process of doing it. And last but not least, common leadership mistake number 5 is over managing. Just think, just for a moment here, how many times in your life have you been led by somebody, or have you just experienced a poor leadership position where somebody was just on such a freaking high horse, thinking that because they're the leader, they're better than everyone else? You had to answer directly to them, do exactly as they say, when they said it, on time, all of that. And there was no questioning the authority. You just had to do it specifically how they told you. I know that there has been several different instances in my life where I was answering to someone, whether they were a manager or a boss or, somebody that was just like a shift manager even. So they weren't actually a manager. They were just in charge of a shift that just saw themselves as better than everyone else. And it made such an uncomfortable working environment. Most individuals are ready, willing, and able to do their job, and they want to excel. But when you don't create a positive working environment, this actually demotivates people. People are sometimes afraid to speak up or speak out against poor leaders because they don't want to risk losing their job. But being led by a poor manager or a poor leader just doesn't create a pleasant working environment. And over managing causes the loss of feeling empowered, and it's just a huge demotivator. So the suggestion here would be to validate the required skill sets that exist amongst your team. Share your expectations. Share that you're open to receiving feedback. And remember here, be open with yourself and your team. Be honest with yourself and your team. Stay self-aware, but also stay aware of the operations that are happening amongst the team. Check in regularly and create that open communication. And always be willing to improve. As a leader, you are no better than anyone on your team. You just might be that designated individual who has been appointed to oversee the operations, regardless of whether you're the CEO of a company or someone that has just been hired into a position. Understand that you have an incredible opportunity to make such a positive influence in the lives of so many people, or you could make a very negative impact on the lives of so many people, but you do have the choice. What would you rather have? A bunch of people that look up to you, that are singing your praises, that trust you, that want to talk to you, that want to support you, that are motivated, enthusiastic, and feeling empowered in the process of achieving the desired outcome? Or would you rather have people that avoid you, avoid talking to you, just don't want to be around you? They maybe gossip behind your back, and it just doesn't feel good, right? There's a constant power struggle there. So if you want to be an effective leader, it's so important to understand how to develop effective communication, building trust and rapport amongst your team, really understanding what it takes to achieve the desired outcome through clearly defining the vision and understanding the values and success mapping your strategy of how to actually get there. Create rapport amongst the team. Create conversation amongst the team. Celebrate wins. Try and take the path of least resistance, and usually the path of least resistance is fun. You wake up feeling motivated. You wake up feeling ready to do the job. You wake up wanting to collaborate and commune with the other people on your team. But remember here, my love, we all make mistakes. The key is to recognize your mistakes, to own them, to learn from them, but to keep moving forward. Don't hold on to the mistakes. Don't dwell in the mistakes. Recognize them, own them, learn from them, and keep moving forward. And you can do that through staying open, staying honest, staying self-aware, and always be willing to improve. Now, remember, my love, I am teaching that free workshop, Impact and Influence, which is a free workshop for those looking to stand out as the authority in the online space and make a massive impact and influence as a leveled up leader. This is a free workshop, and inside the workshop, you're going to learn how to build trust with your audience, make a massive impact through your message, develop the charisma of a high-level leader, attract aligned clients and customers effortlessly, and how to become naturally influential. If you want to be a part of this free workshop, all you have to do is go to kaleroberts.com/links, and you can sign up for free right there. But of course, my love, thank you so much for being with me in today's episode. Until next week. Thank you for joining me in today's episode. I am so grateful you are here with us today. If you loved today's episode, take a screenshot, share it on social media, and tag me in it, because not only do I love to feel all the love, but I also love to hear your feedback. I love connecting with my audience, so let's get connected on social media. Find me, I am the Kale Collective on Instagram and kale.collective on TikTok. I love sharing value as much as I can, so I would love to get connected with you more further. Until next time, my love, rise up.